So to start shading my shoe, I'm gonna start with my 2H. Always start with the lightest pencil and work up from there. And I am going to be using the side of my lead to cover more area in a shorter amount of time and also have a more even shading. I'm also going to follow the shape or the line that I've already drawn, so it looks smooth. And I know I talked about this with my foundation kids. I'm sure you've been told about this in your foundations classes, but always follow the shape of the line that you're shading next to. So I'm just kind of doing a light layer of 2H just to get that lightest shade value in before I start adding in the darker shading. And that just is going to help even things out. The more layers you have, the quicker things are going to even out. So I'm just doing this back part of the heel. And I've just shaded it in with my 2H. So now I'm going to bring in my 2B. And you should do all of your shoe with 2H before you move on to your 2B. The same thing with your 2B. You got to do the whole shoe with 2B before you move on to the next step. So I am just going to start shading in the darker areas. Now the light areas where I need the 2H to show through, I'm just not going to shade over. So this part of the shoe is actually rounded and raised. So I am trying to make it look as 3D as I possibly can. Your goal with these projects is to make whatever you're drawing look as much like the actual thing as you possibly can. As I'm shading, I'm trying to make some parts darker while leaving others lighter. And you can always go back in with your eraser if you accidentally go just a little bit too dark as you're shading, and just kind of dab at it with your eraser. I'm not really rubbing my eraser, I'm kind of just dabbing at it to bring back that lightness that I kind of lost a little bit as I was shading. Now, the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and add my ebony, which is your last step. So I have a seam back here that I kind of need to bring back out. So I'm gonna do that with my ebony, so it's a lot darker. And then I can just go in and start adding a little bit more shading. Where it's needed. Ebony should always be your last step. And unless you have a super, super light area, you should be adding ebony everywhere. So I'm not gonna add it here where I have my lighter section of the raised part of the shoe, but I am gonna add it anywhere where it's darker than that. Your ebony helps smooth everything out and make it look finished. So don't skip out on the ebony. You're gonna need it for your darker areas anyway. So now you can see the difference from this part of the heel to this raised part here. Because I haven't added any ebony to that, it kind of looks like it doesn't fit with the shoe because it's not dark enough. So I'm just gonna go in lightly with the ebony, as light as I can, just to add some of that finished look back to this part. And I may decide that I need to go in and darken the light part anyway, and you can do that. You can always go darker. It's really hard to go from dark back to light. Okay. So as I keep going, I just keep feeling like I need to go darker, but then I start losing the lines that define one part of the shoe from the other, so I just need to go back in and make that part a little bit darker. Once you shade your whole shoe, you are done.